Jake Paul versus Hasim Rahman Jr., the prediction. Knuckleheads, I already gave you one video as to my thoughts on this fight, but I refrained from giving my prediction because I wanted to have enough information to give you guys a good product, right? We are the most educated fight channel on YouTube. I want to give you guys quality, and so that's why I took my time on this one. I feel like today I've come to a realization for a prediction. I'm going to stick with this prediction, and here it is. So first and foremost, we're going to take you guys through the process. I'm going to look at physique, the physical attributes. I'm going to look at experience, and I'm going to look at skills, right? So first and foremost, the physical. Listen, Hasim Rahman Jr. is the bigger man. 6'3" to Jake Paul's around 6 feet flat. I've seen a couple, different heights. We'll just say 6 feet flat. Right off the top, the bigger man, the legitimate heavyweight boxer, right, with more experience. For me, that's a huge problem. You've heard it in the past. A great big man will beat a great smaller man, right? So first and foremost, that height, that's going to play, for me, a factor in this fight. On top of it, we've got the reach. Hasim Rahman Jr.'s reach is going to be longer than Jake Paul's. Listen, guys, when Jake Paul fought Tyron Woodley, they had the same reach. Tyron Woodley is a little guy, right? He's not a big guy. I mean, what did he campaign at in the UFC? Something like 155 pounds, 170 pounds. I mean, he's not a big guy. So, again, Hasim Rahman, height and reach and weight. And, here's the key thing about the weight. A lot of people are talking about Jake Paul kind of draining Rahman down, bringing him down, boiling him down to 200 pounds. I was concerned about that, and I still am slightly concerned about it. But we've heard Rahman talk, and we've heard his dad talk about his lack of dedication in the past. I've heard him talk about hiring an elite nutritionist. I've heard him talking about this transition to the 200-pound weight category as if it's not too difficult, as if he's headed there already, right? And so all this talk is, showing me that this young man is confident in his ability to make this weight and still perform. On top of that, what really caught my attention was when he was asked what he plans to do after this fight. He wants to go after Oscar Rivas at Bridgerweight. And if you guys don't know, Bridgerweight is the weight class invented by the WBC that's at like 225 pounds. It's for these smaller heavyweights that are kind of trapped between heavyweight and cruiserweight. And the fact that he said that shows me a lot of self-awareness, right? It shows me that, this guy, not only has ambition to continue to grow in his boxing career, but he's aware that even though he's 6'3", it's relatively tall, it's not comparable to some of the big time heavyweights like the 6'9" Fury and the 6'6" or 6'7", Deontay Wilder and the 6'5", Anthony Joshua. He understands what he is, and for me, that's big. Again, against a guy who's still, kind of an amateurish fighter in Jake Paul, right? So for me, those things have caused me, as far as the physical attributes go, to sway well towards Hasim Rahman Jr. Again, I'm still a little concerned about boiling him down to 200, but the way he's talking, the way he's sounding to me seems all right. Now let's talk about experience. Listen, this one is a no-brainer. This kid, Hasim Rahman Jr., grew up in the gym. His father's Hasim Rahman. Grew up around Floyd, grew up around Zab Judah, grew up in the gym, amateur career, 100-something fights, 20 fights as a professional boxer. He's only lost one, and it's his last one, which also gives me a little pause, right? But he lost to a very tough guy in Kenzie Morrison. He was winning the fight until he got stopped in that bout. The bout may have been stopped a little bit prematurely, but nonetheless, he still got stopped. That said, as I indicated in my last video, he wasn't knocked out. He was actually protesting when the referee stopped that fight. And when you look at that experience, right, even that loss is a great experience for him. when you look at that experience, and he lost that fight because of conditioning, most likely. When you look at that experience, it arms him with the knowledge that he needs to absolutely do a number on Jake Paul in this fight, right? Again, we're talking about a Jake Paul that has only 5 pro boxing bouts. They're against guys who've never boxed before in their lives. And they're against guys that weren't as big or as skilled as Rahman or as strong. I mean, this is a completely different animal. You can't even compare this to a Tyron Woodley, who, if we're gonna be honest, was 39 years old in that last fight against Jake Paul, and in the fight before that, almost knocked him through the ropes. So for me, the experience is a huge factor in my decision here, right? And all due respect to Jake Paul, he has leveled up considerably since he started. At least that's what it looks like to me. But NBA basketball player, completely, wrestling-based MMA fighter, another, MMA fighter who I guess, is more of a striker, but certainly not a boxer in Tyron Woodley, and a guy who was 39 years old this last time out. And even then, Jake Paul looked a little bit amateur at times in that fight, and that's what's going to segue me into the next category, which is skills, right? We look at the skills, and, at least for me, with my eyes, right, having watched fighters, promoting fighters in kickboxing, having watched boxing for a very long time, been around boxers, hung around some of the world's best boxing coaches in the world, he seems still to have a little bit of a amateurish way about him, right? His boxing isn't as fluid as a guy like Hasim Rahman, who's been doing it since he's a young man. And I'm not knocking him for it. It's just a matter of experience. I mean, look, you take a guy who's been doing it his whole life. His father did it. You put him against a guy who was a wrestler in high school or whatever he was and now decided to become a boxer. It's apples and oranges, you guys, right? Listen, what I mean to say by all of this is, at the end of the day, don't fall for the hype train. Unless Hasim Rahman is completely damaged goods from the Kenzie Morrison fight, which I don't think he is, and unless he's boiled down to skin and bones by dropping to 200 pounds, which I don't think he is, then this is a fairly one-sided fight for Hasim Rahman Jr. The only way I see Jake Paul doing any sort of damage in this fight is because he has such supreme confidence in himself. But the reason he's like that, you guys, is because he's never gone up against anyone like a Hasim Rahman Jr. to know better, right? He only knows what he knows. That, the people they're flying in for sparring, that the people they put in front of him with no boxing experience throughout his career, he's obliterated those people. But now he's in for a real fight against a guy with 20 pro bouts and 100 amateur bouts, bigger than him, stronger than him, and the only way I see Jake Paul winning this bout is some sort of decision, right, where he's just moving around and connecting more. And I just don't see that happening either. I see Jake Paul getting beat up in this fight. I see Jake Paul, if Hasim Rahman Jr. comes in there with any sort of viciousness at all, I see Jake Paul getting knocked out in this fight. I'm being honest with you guys. My prediction, however, is that he probably loses a decision. Now, again, I wouldn't leave it out the realm of possibility that he gets finished at the end of this fight. But I think Jake Paul loses a one-sided decision in this fight, right? And the only reason he probably doesn't get stopped is because it's only an 8-round bout. That's my opinion. Now, again, I could be wrong. Like I said, Rahman is coming off of a knockout loss, although he wasn't unconscious. And he is, being drained down to 200. But with aspirations to fight at Bridgerweight, knuckleheads, I don't think this looks good for Jake Paul at all. I think he may have bitten off a little bit more, hell, a lot of it more than he could chew. So knuckleheads, tell me what you think in the comment section below. Sorry, I don't know what happened here. Yeah, tell me what you think in the comment section below. Subscribe and join the channel. Also, don't forget to get your tickets to Fighters Rep 15 at FightersRep.com. It's going down September 3rd in Los Angeles. It's going to be amazing. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about that and your predictions on this bout.